everyone. Really happy to be live with Alison Morton. One of my favourite UK CBC author discoveries. Do you want to start us off with an intro to you and your books?
Okay, well, recently I've been concentrating on my second series, which is contemporary thrillers, sort of crime thriller, if you like. But like my original Romanova series, they feature a female antagonist, and she's leading the action. I like to have books where the woman is not the secretary, the assistant, the scientific advisor, or the victim. I like my ladies to actually get out there and do stuff. I wrote the first in the series as a challenge. I don't know if many people in the crime area know Con Eagledon, who's a historical novelist. He writes really nice stuff. He also wrote the dangerous book for boys, which was how to be a young, tough boy today. But he's a fantastic character, and we were drinking red wine at Harrogate. There was a historical affair. It was a nice weekend, and we were just chatting, as you do. And he said, "Oh, I'll give you a quote for one of your books." So he did. He gave me a fantastic endorsement for Insurrectio, and that was fantastic, great. And he said, "I'm not sure about this alternate history thing." He says, "You write a really good riot." I said, "Oh, thank you." And he said, "Why don't you write a modern European investigator, a woman and all that?" I said, "Oh, no, I've got to finish my Romanova series. Sorry, I've got some more books to write in this." And he said, "Well, okay, but the challenge stands." And I thought, and then COVID came with lockdown. And I thought, do you know, I'm going to have a go at this. And I did take it to Crime Fest and got some very nice feedback from agents as well. So I was quite pleased. But I thought, I'll write this. Out comes Double Identity. And this girl is half French, half English. So she's immediately got conflict inside. And I live in France, and I'm both French and British. So I could do that, a little bit of knowing what I'm writing about. Wrote it, great, got it done. I have now met this challenge. So I emailed him and I said, I sent him a copy of the book and said, "Here you are, you're in the back, I've done this." "Oh, great," he said. "So what happens to her afterwards?" "Oh, no, I'm going back to Romanova, sorry." "No, well, okay, fair enough." He said, "Just let me know." And then Melisande, or Mel, as her mum calls her Mel, her French dad calls her Melisande. I'll call her Mel. I thought, Mel, come on, what are you doing? She's going round in my head, and I live in this dual national French-British type atmosphere. And I thought, do you know, I wonder what she did do about certain aspects, because it was a complete story. I thought, well, I wonder. So I found a little tiny thing that I hadn't completely tied up. I tied up enough, but not completely. So I built the next book on that, Double Pursuit. She's pursuing the bad people, but somebody else is pursuing her. So it's a two-way pursuit, if you like. And I brought in some of Mel's backstory, and I made her go and face something she'd not faced up to in her past. We all love that, isn't it? The hero or the heroine jolly well has to get on with it and face a really deep-seated fear. So that was quite nice. Then I wrote in between. I thought, right, I am going back to Romanova. This is going to happen. And in the end, my fans had been wanting me to write the origin story in the 4th century, late 4th century. And I know that period of Roman history. It's a period of great change and a great challenge. And it's not one anybody else writes about. So I wrote 2 books in that. Oh, yeah, I really enjoyed this. This is really good. It's done all the foundations, a big love story. Then there's a lot of thriller and crime and stuff. Can't keep thriller out my books. And that was fine. I wonder what's happened to Mel. What's she been up to? And I'm going to get all serious now. There's been a lot of political upheaval in the world in the last few years. I'm not going to sort of go too far there, but certainly in Europe, there's a lot of the rise of the right wing. I mean, in Germany, there's been rumblings on for years, the hard right. And in France, we've had our own Marine Le Pen and all those, and a lot of people voting like that. And I thought, do you know, a lot of people are very worried about this, particularly in Germany, which of course has its history. So I thought, I think I'm going to write against that background. I'm a historian by trade, so I thought, yeah, okay, I know this. I spent time in Germany. My master's was about Germany and the Third Reich. I've got the background. But I still wanted a thrilling story, of course. And somehow I wanted to bring it home to Mel, to her family, to have some kind of challenge to that. So double stakes. There's a personal stakes for her in her family, and there's a political stakes. And we start off with an attack on Mel's home, but she's ordered to go and investigate a kidnapping in Germany. A politician's daughter has been kidnapped, and the bad guys want him to throw the election, to withdraw from it, because he's the person that's going to be a great leader and push back all this right-wing stuff. And of course, it gets a great deal more complicated than that. And she and her partner, who's an ex-inspector from the London Met, they go off and they do amazing things. She uses her ex-military experience. She was in the French army for 10 years. And then Jeff, her partner, is ex-London cop. So the two of them, between them, have this, if you like, raft of talents between them. But they also have a personal banter between them as well. So that's very basically the world I'm writing in.
I think that was quite comprehensive as a description. It was very good. Leslie and Donna have said hello.
Hello.
See you while we've been chatting.
Right.
I mean, I discovered you from the Roman Nova series, and I think my heart will always be with them first. So I'm hoping that there's going to be more of them. We're going to keep returning because they bring me so much joy.
Oh, I'm so pleased. I mean, whatever one says about one wants to sell books and all the rest of it, it's fantastic when somebody gets into your world and you can share it with them and they like it, and they're part of the story, because unless a book's read, it's a bit pointless, really. And people, and I'm so pleased you say that, because I feel I've sort of used my time well making these stories. It's a bit of a secret, but that I am actually working on a story which I think might be a short story with Karina, but I'm not quite sure where it's going. It may develop into something a little bit longer. I don't know. I'm just writing the story. And you start off with a simple idea and then it sort of develops. So I don't know where it's going either. So maybe there will be a new Roman Nova story. I don't know.
I think you touched on this earlier, but I think one of the things that makes yours stand out as well is that you, in both Roman Nova and Mel, especially with Mel, you've got very strong women leading the way, haven't you? You know, they're in the army, they're, you know, sort of going and dealing with these big things. And that is quite unusual in.
Yes. I spent 6 years in uniform and ended up commanding a special communications group in Germany for some of the time, in other NATO places. And it's a very special thing. It's a very special sort of almost bubble type of life. You can see some extremely grim things and have some incredibly fun times. It's a life of extremes. So I felt I was reasonably well qualified to write that. And I think having women serving in the army is a little unusual. But in the Royal Signals, you didn't really matter what gender you were as long as your job was good, as long as you did it. I have to say it's very cold on the North German plain in winter. I think as long as you can hack it, as long as you can do the job, I don't think there should be any barriers. But you've got to be able to come up to the standards that are required. I wouldn't go anywhere near infantry personally because it's far too much like hard work. But we, in our role, had to defend our unit in certain circumstances. Zipped mouse. So we were all weapons trained and did basic military training. It's a strange, strange life, but it's one that definitely has its rewards. So, yeah, I wanted to put that. Any author who says, oh no, nothing of me in my book, is telling porky pies, because you always put some kind of experience into your book. And of course, the military is full of oddballs and funny people, and you can weave those characteristics into your characters. The one that I've almost taken completely as the real person is Lurio, Inspector Lurio of the Romanova Custodes. I knew somebody exactly like that. I have changed one or two little bits, but he is a complete implant. And I think I'd die before I admitted it to him. But he was such a strong character. And I think in our books, we like to have characters that stand out. You know, I don't know if you've been watching Department Q, the oddball chief inspector who's doing cold cases. I mean, he is absolutely awful character. Awful. Played by Matthew Good. But he stands out because he is so peculiar and strong. So I think if we can make our characters a little bit different, I think that also gives the reader a bit of fun. You know, they're not the same old.
No, very true. I was laughing at your thing about military people being a bit oddballs as well, because my dad was a Royal Signal.
Oh, was he? Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Which bit? I'm just going to be sorry, everybody else. Once you know somebody's been in the army, you talk to them, and it's just, oh, where was he based?
Also all over Germany, Lincolnshire.
Blandford Forum. He must have been to Blandford Forum at some stage.
Don't know. You'd have to ask him.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh,
but yeah.
But again, there's that instant thing when you meet somebody. It's oh, where were you based? Did you know so and so? Oh yeah, right. I work with them sometime. Oh yeah, and it's sort of there is that instant reconnection, even years and years and years afterwards.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't have a lot of experience of it. I was born on an RAF base because I had in the Royal Signals. And this group has made me connect with one person who's the only other person I've met who's from the same place as me.
Huh?
Which is like really nice. Yeah. Because you don't meet many people. Like sometimes you tell someone like where you're from and they're just like, that's weird.
No. Oh, it's weird. But we like weird. I mean, weird is actually quite good.
Yeah. So Mel's been in the French army. Did you have to do some research for that? Is the French army's kind of routines and things very different to?
Yeah, it sort of has. Soldiers are soldiers, and missions are missions, and ranks are ranks, and that's those are sort of similar. But she, at 18, didn't want to go to the equivalent of Sandhurst. She wanted to get in the action, so she joined straight off. But in the French army, there is possibility of entering as an NCO straight in. You have these incredibly difficult training. I mean, it's pretty intense if you go in directly. And obviously, like anything, you do a assessment course and so on. You have to be terrifically fit and pass various tests and all that. And you can go in then training, and then off you go out into a unit and do whatever. About half NCOs in the French army come in that way. The other half come up through the ranks. But they all have to perform at the same level. Often the direct entrance, I mean, they have to have like the equivalent of A levels, the baccalaureate, before they even get into it. But they do contracts. So Mel has done 2 5-year contracts, and you can actually come out at the end of that 5-year, or you can renew it. So she actually does renew it when the events in Double Identity happen. No spoilers. And she obviously then re-enlists for another 5 years. And her colonel's always honoured her to go further. He commands her unit. He wants her to go in for a commission and go up. And she says, no, I prefer to actually be at the business end of things. So their uniforms were designed by Pierre Balmain. So they had a Paris fashion house. And their uniforms are really elegant, the dress uniform. The British ones are very nice, but they're not quite up to a French couture house. They have very similar, they march slightly differently if you see them on the television on the Bastille Day marches. They have very proud traditions. They do mirror the British Army in a way, because they have had overseas deployments, they've had an empire, they're very proud of their regiments. They're a little bit behind on their equal opportunities attitudes. There is more sexism in the French army, there's no mistake. But they're a very, very efficient force. So, yeah, there's little bits, and some of their ranks are slightly different, got weird names, which have come from history. But in basically, they are the same. I mean, all NATO armies are tending to converge in a way in certain things. So that's quite good. Yeah, I would say they're pretty tough.
How much does being a historian help you when you're writing?
Massively, because you always ask why, and you always check things. A fact is not a fact unless you can find 3 sources of that fact. So I have to say I'm very fussy about making sure things are right. I actually subscribe to so many websites like Glock, who manufacture all the weaponry, Heckler Koch, all those sort of people, which is probably doesn't look very good on my Facebook search if I ever went to the US. Or maybe it would. You always approach anything, you read something and you think, oh, I'll just check that. So you don't take anything at face value. You also tend to, even when you're trying to check up on a site or a location, I will look into the history of that location, because there's bound to be something attaching to it that has formed that site. I don't know, you go into, let's just say, Germany. Unless you know German history, the East, the West, the conflicts, the problems, the rejoining, how Germany came about, and how people are very loyal to their area. A bit like Yorkshire, people Yorkshire first and then English and possibly British. People in, say, Bavaria in southern Germany, they're Bavarians. So you have to be aware of that kind of thing. And why do they think they're Bavarians? Because of their history. And even today, in 2025, there's that sense of identity. So, yeah, being a historian means you're dead nosy about everything, which helps.
Yeah, definitely. Donna's saying she doesn't think anyone's internet search would look good. Google,
anybody's
Facebook,
internet search would, sorry?
She doesn't think anyone's internet search would do them any favours.
Well, no, probably not. I don't care
Pretty
really.
sure mine wouldn't go down well.
I mean, how to, when I was doing Roma Nova, I knew a bit about it, but how to mount a coup in a country. I mean, that's not exactly very. Um, I mean, defeating terrorism. I've been on loads and loads of police sites about terrorism, and I'm a regular on Europol and Interpol, and for one of the books, I'm trying to remember, I think it was Double Pursuit, I had to go through all the Belgian legal code, which is a very sad thing to admit. But I must have a record of being on all kinds of things. And with this latest book, I had to go on some very difficult sites with German hard right groups, and that wasn't very nice at all. And I thought, this is just going to completely do me if anybody searched. There's some very uncomfortable people in the world with some very, very strange points of view. But you have to know them before you can put your heroine or hero against them. There's no point just taking it from the movies. And it wasn't very pleasant researching.
No, I mean, that's the problem with writing crime and thrillers, I guess. Sometimes the research isn't going to be very pleasant.
Yeah, I mean, you read crime things where somebody's been badly mistreated, and if you sort of need to go into it so to make sure you know how they would react, not just they look a bit biffed up with some bruises, but how you would feel inside yourself, how that person would distrust everybody. And if a woman had been badly treated, would she ever trust a man again? And would she just naturally shy away from anybody coming near her? And if it hasn't happened to you, which hopefully not, you have to sort of try and research how that would be. So you would be looking at women recounting their stories from women's shelters, and it would be quite harrowing. But how can you write authentically if you haven't looked into that?
Good. Yeah, it's a very good point. Ah, Donna says, do your friends think it's cool that you write crime, or do they think that you're not right in the head?
Do my friends think it's cool I'm writing crime? Well, I don't know. People enjoy the stories. Nobody has actually said an opinion about it, if you see what I mean. Either way, people thought when I wrote Roma Nova it was a bit odd. I have a lot of friends who write straight Roman history, and they count me as part of the Roman writing community, which is nice because I write with very Roman value characters. Then, of course, having done two historical ones with Julia Prima and Exilium set at the end of the Roman Empire, they like that. On the crime side, I mean, I like writing a thriller, and of course the crime comes into it. No, but I know two other people. Certainly one, Helen Hollick, has turned to crime from history, and lots of other people I know are tending to think, oh, I quite like to write crime. And I point out to them saying, yeah, but it's not like you're not going to have to do research because you did a lot of research with historical. You come into crime, you are still going to have to do a lot of research because readers are very knowledgeable. I mean, and I say, well, yeah, but crime splits into loads of different types. You've got procedurals, you've got historical mysteries, you've got thrillers, you've got psychological, you've got every type. And I say, yeah, you have to do research, sorry. I don't go into gory detail, so nobody's even mentioned that to me. So I don't know if they think I'm cool. I don't think I'm cool.
We think you're cool.
I don't think I'm cool. I think I write what I like to write, what I like to read. I like thrillers. I like books that have pace. I like books that I'm not necessarily up front, but that will teach me something. I'll find out something. I'll see a character develop. So those are the sorts of things I quite like to put into my books. But cool, I don't know. I think I'm too old to even make an effort to become cool. I can't be bothered.
I mean, thrillers are a very popular genre within crime fiction, aren't they?
Yes.
What do you think it is that draws people to them?
I think it's a story that moves along fast, if you see what I mean. Whether you're sort of, I mean, I remember when I had a real crush on reading Tom Clancy, and that was particularly good because they were more techno thrillers, but they drew in people from different directions, and then you had quite a fast-paced denouement. And it's the tension. You just think, now what is going to happen? And with thrillers, yeah, it does move faster. It's, of course, there's an element of investigation. There's the bad guys, the good guys, the we don't quite know what they're like guys. There's team working, there's solo working, there's the character development and so on. But I think thrillers will throw up the unexpected, completely and if it doesn't, I think it's possibly not a thriller. I think we like the tension and the pace.
Is there any particular kind of tropes or thrillers that you try and avoid with the Mel book?
Yeah, blood and guts. I don't like people being chained up in cellars and tortured. I can't be doing with that. I like them. I like Mel to be faced with a mental challenge as well. I try not to be obvious. Sometimes you are obvious. One thing I don't like in thrillers, if nobody eats, goes to the loo, sleeps, has to redo their bandages if they've hurt themselves. Mel hurt her hands in one of the books, and if you've ever had grazed or damaged hands, she was thrown from a building after a bomb exploded, and so she landed with her hands were on the pavement, the concrete. They take ages, and you can't bear to hold anything, and you wear cream, but to soothe them, and you wear cotton gloves. Now, that's what actually happens. If you have a thriller where something like that happens, and the next minute the hero or heroine is shooting completely perfectly with absolute accuracy and everything's fabulous, it's not true. So I think we need to humanize, and not just in the mental and psychological way. We need people to have to go and do shopping. I don't mean that should be a major thing because they can be thinking about the case or somebody can leap out at them or something. But we have to set our characters in a human place that readers can relate to. You know, you're really busy at work and you've only got half an hour to nip to the shops, and you're going to have ready meals because you just haven't got time. You've got to go out and do something in the evening, on the case. But I think you do need to bring a bit of that in. And I think that was the thing with the Dan Brown adventures. Nobody ever slept. Well, you can't work like that.
I think yours definitely do that well. Leslie has asked who your favourite authors are and what you enjoyed reading as a child.
Oh, as a child. Oh, I'm going to go to my childhood first. I loved Heidi. Now everybody of my age loved Heidi. Because she did tough it out in the end. She was the person that saved the world, or their own little world, and she made everybody feel better. And when you're 5 or 6 yourself, you want that sort of story. C.S. Lewis, of course, and the Narnia books made me realise you could build a different world, a world you could organise yourself. I didn't realise at the time that was what was going on in my brain, but Eagle of the Ninth was my first Roman fiction, and I absolutely adored it. Not the film, I mean, Channing Tatum's very pretty. And Rosemary Sutcliffe wrote two more to go with that, and they were very well written, and I thought very realistic. I mean, they're a bit old. On the crime side, I grew up on Simon Templar, The Saint, as written by Leslie Charteris. So those were some of the very early things. Currently, I love William Boyd. William Boyd's books are so clever. They're very tense. You just can't help but follow the character. And my favourite one is Restless, which has two women protagonists and covers the period of 1940s America in the war, when the Brits were leading a propaganda campaign, and it examines sort of, is truth, what's fiction, what's reality, and that's really good. And again, you have strong women leading it. What else do I like? Historically, pretty much any Roman book. That's not very good, is it? Lindsay Davis is particularly good. She created the Roman detective Falco, and he solves cases in the 1st century. He's got a tremendous sense of humour, and she's recently been doing a spin-off series with Falco's daughter, Flavia Albia, as a detective. But one thing Lindsay Davis does is keep Flavia Albia within the context of 1st century Rome. And so you learn an enormous amount about values, life, women's place, and so on. And Lindsay Davis is a bunch of fun when you're on a panel with her. I had to chair her, Harry Sidebottom, and Nick, I can't remember his name, who does a very good Roman podcast. That was terrifying. When you're chairing a panel with one of your idols sitting there and an Oxford Don on the other side, that's quite scary. So I will read almost anything. I don't know, I read about 150 fiction books a year-ish, plus all the non-fiction stuff you have to read. I think William Boyd stands out. I like Anne Patchett. But my secret vice reading is Georgette Heyer. I know, but she writes beautifully, and I learnt to write dialogue from her. Her dialogue is perfect. Oh, I must mention Robert Harris. He's very good. He writes succinctly, beautifully. He gave me the idea of alternate history with his Fatherland, which is you've got a Berlin policeman who's trying to find out a mystery, and he's being blocked at all levels. But it's set in a Germany where there was an armistice between Germany and Britain, but it's set in that Germany that came afterwards, and that is the ultimate what if, of course. And it caused a massive stir in Germany when it was published. And that was just after the Berlin Wall fell. He wrote that. And that was fantastic. He was a journalist, and he writes in that succinct journalistic way. But you get all the atmosphere straight away. He uses very few words and can create a whole picture. And that's absolutely a fantastic talent. So, yeah.
Is that a bit like Man in a High Castle? That's more history, isn't it?
Yeah, the original story is a little bit different, and on the TV session. But hey, it's Rufus Sewell, what's to moan about? Sorry, gentlemen, But, Caroline understands.
Well, Donna says she doesn't watch things, she definitely doesn't just watch things because the men are pretty. Leslie agrees with you about Fatherland.
Hmm.
I'm not surprised with your Rosemary Sutcliffe love. I grew up loving her books. Eagle
Yeah.
of Night, Frontier Wolves was another particular favourite of mine.
Oh, right. Okay.
Wrote
Yeah.
and some of the Viking ones as well. Um, but they've got that kind of gritty sort of realism and
Yes.
like really well developed characters that you kind of learn to love that I think is really prevalent in your fiction as well. I can kind of like it makes
Oh,
sense. When you were like saying that you liked her, I was like, yeah, as a child who read Rosemary Sutcliffe, growing up to read your books makes a lot of
right.
sense to me.
I think, I mean, when I was a kid, I used to go, there used to be, I mean, I don't know if they do it now, but they used to run a scheme that you took a book out, when this is for little children, 5 to 10s, primary school, and you took a book out each week and you read it and you came back and you answered 10 questions on it. I mean, they weren't, I can remember, they weren't difficult, but anyway, and you got a point for each one. And you could get a maximum of 10. So, and when you got 100 points, you got a book token and you could go and spend it anywhere. And we had 4 bookshops in my hometown. 2 were independent and 2 were chain. And this was amazing. This was terrific. You could buy 3 or 4 books for the book token, paperbacks, that's all, there was. And that impels you to read any and everything. So I read everything when I was a kid. And we're talking a long time ago. And it really made you read different things because the librarian, of course, would try and push you towards, taking one of a selection of X, Y, Z. And it made you enthusiastic because getting the points was big, and then getting the book token was even bigger because you could go and spend money in a bookshop, Oh, and to a small kid, that was absolutely wonderful. And I think that made me read everything. So it made me, in a way, slightly fussy reader in that I knew what I liked. I loved the books that had a story that moved, as you say, characters that developed. And I think that's very, very important. When you find a new series and you love the characters, oh goodness,
Well, yeah,
joy.
I think I'm still a reader. When I was a kid, I used to just go down missions for ages of a particular author I liked. So I had a Jules Verne phase where I just
Oh
read
yeah,
through his books.
they're
Um,
mad, those people, mad. Jules Verne. I mean, such imagination.
yeah, I used to love those. I read so many of them. I just went through a phase of just reading like things like that. Um, and I think as an adult, that stays with me. But when I discover an author, I want to read everything they've written
Yes,
if I really like them. And I'll go back and find all the things.
everything.
Yeah, because if you like someone's writing style, you're gonna like anything they write.
Oh, I think so. I mean, I was it. Oh, who is it now? Who did Vatter's War? Sci-fi ones. Is it not Elizabeth Moon? Is it Elizabeth Moon? Can't remember. But I picked up this book in a charity shop for something like 50p, and I thought, oh, that's quite interesting. You will not be surprised to learn that this girl was in the Space Navy and she'd made a mistake, so she was sent off to somewhere boring. And in the end, it turned out to be terrifically crucial, blah, blah. I thought, this is really brilliant. I went straight onto Amazon, spent 35 quid on the rest of the series. So it does work like that. You find one. And I think that's how I discovered Lindsay Davis. I think I discovered the very first book, and that was it. 20 books she wrote, yes.
See, that's why we like yours, because then you branched out. So I found Roman over, then you branched out into Mel, and I've got extra things to read.
Yeah, I wondered whether I'd got to the end of Romanova because I've now got 4 Karina books and 4 Aurelia, plus the 2 historicals and the short stories. And I thought, not sure where I can sort of slot another one in because I have to alter all the numbers again. Um, you know, I didn't write the series in a logical order. I sort of wrote them in a peculiar order. Starting again, I would obviously write them in a more sequential order. So I'm not sure. Go on.
Sorry, do you have a set number of the Mel books that you're going to write? Because you started that as a proof to Con that you would write one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now we've got 3.
Oh, I expect there'll be another one.
Do you have like an end? Do you kind of see like where? Because the Roman over ones, you got different people in different times.
Yeah.
Right, so that's fine, and you can end their stories in a certain way. Whereas Mel's like the main character of this. So do you have an idea? Because presumably, at 30, she doesn't want to carry on doing this.
Yeah,
Forever.
she's just got to 30. She's still quite fit. I haven't got an end. I'm sure I can get her at least one more mission, possibly 2, because she is quite fit and tough. But I think I'll have to give her a bit more out of breath moments. And Jeff, of course, is 38, so he's knocking on the door of 40. So we shall see. But I'm not. The time is compressed, whereas with Roma Nova, each book dipped into a different time in their lives. So there's Karina is 24, beginning of Inceptio. By the end of Successio, she's in her early 40s, and her daughter is now grown up. Whether I take the daughter Allegra forward, I don't know. That's a possibility.
Well, that should be a definite.
Yeah, because she's definitely a character, quite a different character. I'm still toying whether I might go back into more historical times. I wrote a short story about a character called Honoria Mitella in the 17th century. That was a short story. And she is present at the siege of Vienna when the German Holy Roman Empire and its allies repulsed the Ottomans coming into Europe. And that was quite a crucial time of history when the Ottoman advance through the Balkans was stopped. They wanted to conquer Vienna. And this long-off ancestor of both Karina and Aurelia played a crucial part in it. Now, that's alternate history, obviously. But I'm still toying with doing a novel on that. I haven't quite got my head around 17th century. I don't know. It's just an idea. I might. But I'm going to do my Karina story now as a rest from Mel. But yeah, I expect Mel's adventures follow one upon the other, whereas the Romanovans were stretched over a much longer period.
Leslie said she used to get her books from jumble sales because there wasn't a bookshop in her small town. But
Right.
Also, apparently, Georgette Heyer is very popular again with the new generation of readers.
I think she's eternal. I think her books are so well written. Yeah, okay, you could say there's some little bit old-fashioned writing ticks in there, but we forgive it. We know what's going to happen at the end. I mean, I'm talking about the Regency romances. We know what's going to happen at the end, but it's the process of getting there, and her period detail is fantastic, and they're well-written stories. I'm really pleased, actually, because I've got some dead old tatty copies that are falling apart that cost 3 and 6 and 5 shillings. You can tell how old they are.
I'm a very big fan of a Regency romance.
Yeah. Oh, do you know Catherine Kuhlman? She writes Regency really, really well. Really well. And I would thoroughly recommend her. That sometimes they're a little more gritty occasionally than Georgette Heyer, but her research is fantastic. But it's quite light, she writes very nicely. So that I would recommend hers. There's a lot of Regency about, but I would
Yes, there is.
definitely.
I learned how to Regency dance last weekend.
Oh, you did? Oh, fantastic!
Yeah.
You enjoyed that?
Yeah, I did. It was a lot of fun until the dance instructor told me and my husband that we had a weird height difference.
Oh, right. Okay. Well,
Between
oh, right. Where did you do that?
Bradford Literature Festival.
Oh, right. Okay. It's a shame Harrogate doesn't have assemblies anymore, isn't it?
Yeah, they should. It'd be
They
really good.
should. They should do. That'd be really good fun.
I
Oh,
think more stuff like that at Lit Fest is kind of. It was genuinely quite good fun.
yeah. Well, when we do the Roman ones, it's quite nice to put the Roman togs on and sort of when Kate Quinn, myself, and Ruth Downey, we did a panel at the last Historical Novel Society and conference, and we talked. It was about how Rome is portrayed in the screen. It's all about screen and such, print to screen, and we. The medieval lot before us, they were all really good and they were for blah, blah, blah. We three rolled up in Roman dress. That was so funny, but it makes such a difference. Yeah, people took a lot of pictures of us, which was quite funny. But Ruth and I have done festivals and we do wear Roman kit. You know, we were, I mean, obviously female, but that was quite interesting doing that. Yeah, I think it makes a difference. And you feel differently because you have to move differently in the clothes. I mean, in summer we all get it. My husband and I go into shirts and shorts or t-shirts. He likes a shirt, and it's different from when you go into winter clothes with jumpers and longer trousers and stuff. And even that tiny, tiny shift with the seasons. Imagine if you were wearing, say, your Regency or me, the Roman. How different it is. And you move differently and you think differently about what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. In uniform like Mel or Karina or Aurelia, when they're wearing one, you move differently in it from your civilian clothes. And it's not quite putting a new identity on, but it is moving differently. And it sets your mind, especially in the Karina's 4 stories, um, when her husband is actually her commanding officer, which is a bit tricky. Both being in uniform in the unit, working in the military environment, does condition how they relate to each other. And then out of it, it's a different way they relate to each other as husband and wife. So putting the clothes on is very important.
Probably helps as an author as well. I would imagine,
Yeah,
because you know what your characters would feel like.
yes, yes. I mean, really does help in that way. It really, really does help. And you can feel either the constraints and I mean, if you put on a Roman male shirt and you hold a legionary shield, even a lightish one, and a Roman gladius, by God, you have to be fit to hold all that lot because a male shirt is about 4 or 5 kilos and you move differently. Holding a shield, after about 5 minutes, if you're lucky, your arm is going to fall off. It's so tiring. And a gladius, it's not just jab, 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 twist, slash, and these muscles here, they would have been enormous. So it gives you an idea how that character would look like. In the military, you've got to be fit. You can't not be fit. And Mel is always very in the double series is always very sure to go out for a run, to do her exercises, to keep fit. I made her go and do her arms certificate in one of the books, because that's what any soldier has to do. So that's their life, that's their normal life. But you have to know how heavy a normal weapon would be for the average soldier. Unless you've hefted one, there's nothing like it. I would always say to people, go out on a range, go to a gun club and ask if you can do a trial or something. And most people are okay about that. But you will go through a massive safety lecture, of course. But unless you felt it, the stock up here and how to hold it, and your muscle hurt under here, you've got to really be quite strong with that. Unless you've done it, it's a bit difficult to imagine.
I guess that's where places like museums and things like the Royal Armouries can help.
Yeah.
Here, because they have a lot of. I know I read a forensics book a while ago, and it said that they actually help with crime investigations sometimes. They have like a police unit sort of near to the museum, so if they need to compare weapons, they can sort of borrow exhibits.
Yeah. I mean, they're very expert. I mean, they're very, very, very good. So,
And they'll let you handle weapons or lift them to see how heavy they are and things like that, which is quite good.
I mean, lifting 3 kilos of weapon, you think, oh, that's not much. But when you've actually got to hold that for quite a while, you have to remember that your muscles will tense. And if you're on an observation, or as Karina is at the end of Inceptio, they're lying on a cold mountain, your muscles are all going to freeze up, and there's no way you're going to be able to shoot straight. You have to sort of keep moving and keep your muscles warm and keep yourself warm, because if you freeze, you won't be able to perform very well.
Right, one of my favourite questions currently is, what have you read recently and really enjoyed?
Okay, I did I'm a big rereader. I've been rereading some of the Lindsay Davis ones, which has been a bit different. I don't like to read the same thing I'm writing because it's very confusing. I'm also reading, and I cannot remember the man's name. I'm really sorry. He's a German, Sebastian Hanoff. I can't remember. And he was he's done a memoir, and it's from when he was 7 at the time of the Great War, the First World War, and all through the 20s and leading in the early 30s. And it's a very personal account. It's not the big movements, the big moments of Germany in the 30s. He qualified as a lawyer, and he had all these friends, and they did artistic things, and also they go out and have a good time, and they lived this glorious 1920s life. And then things got difficult. There was the great inflation, how it affected them and their families in a personal way. And he thinks quite philosophically about what's going on around him. And it's a fascinating study. You think, oh, it might sound a bit boring, but it's not. There's this young man, and he gradually comes to realise he can't stay. So I'm not quite at that point yet, about 3/4 of the way. I know he does go because his son was born in England and is as English as anybody, really. But it's fascinating of this bright intellectual man, a young man to start with, and his friends, and how these things are closing in on him and restricting him, and he has to make choices at every moment. It's written in a very accessible style, almost like a novel, and it's a real insight into his character and his thought processes. So I'm quite enjoying that. I mean, it's not fiction. Next week I'll probably go back to Georgette Hare. Who knows? I do like to change from one mood to another.
Yeah, I like a non-fiction read alongside the fiction I'm reading. I quite like historical non-fiction as well.
Okay, yeah. I'm sort of watching with great interest this other memoir that's in the news at the moment, The Salt Path. So that's quite an interesting thing, which a lot of people are finding a bit whingy. I don't know. We shall see. Memoir can be quite boring. It can be quite illuminating. It can be exciting. It depends who it is.
Yeah, I tend to read, if I'm reading like biographies or memoirs or things like that, I often get drawn to people who do music.
I mean, it depends when you pick. It's the same old thing. You click or you pick up the book or whatever, and you think, oh, no, not for me. Or you think, oh, actually, that's quite interesting. I haven't sort of read anything from that time or in that country or whatever. It's like fiction. It's got to grab you, which is why things like covers and blurbs on the back are so important.
And harder if you're publishing yourself to be able to be in charge of all of that, isn't it?
Yes, but you do control it all. You use the very best services you can possibly get hold of, and you hone it and you hone it and you hone it, and you have to know the book world, what readers would like, because readers are the ones we need. But yeah, there's a lot. I recently gave a talk to the Society of Authors about that. I don't think I've baffled them, but I sort of skimmed, and the Crime Writers Association. In fact, I was in Ilkley and gave a talk there on self-publishing, and it's a hardish road, but it's very rewarding. Yeah, to do it properly.
Are you going to any crime events or festivals this year?
Well, I did the CWA one. I didn't go to Crime Fest. I can't remember why I didn't. I think it was a clash with family event. Because my son and his wife and their family live in the UK, so we're often over. I don't think I've got anything else lined up this year. It's a very funny year. I've only done a couple of 3 things. One year I did over 12 events. I think I should have got a season ticket on Ryanair. Because I don't know if your readers know that I live in France. So, of course, to do UK events, I'm always having to use the delightful Ryanair. No, I haven't got anything. I'm sort of thinking about next year and seeing what's what. But yeah, hopefully I'll be doing some.
Cool. Leslie says she likes reading the diaries that were submitted for the Mass Observation Project.
Oh, yes, they're fascinating. Absolutely. I used that. Now, what did I use? I used that for when I was doing my master's. I had to do a bit of a study about people's response to what was going on. I chose the war, wartime, and what people wrote about. You just think these wonderful people who took the time to write these diaries, and it's a bit like this book I'm reading, the everyday, and how they reacted to it. And you get some little succinct sentence in, so Mr. So-and-so did such a thing. He did not pass comment on this. And Mr. So-and-so absolutely hated this. But this person, this woman writing or man writing at the time was not going to say that. And reading them, it's fascinating.
And then we've got a minute left, so remind everyone what they're going to go away and buy if they've enjoyed this chat.
Right. Well, I shall. These are the crimey ones. So they're all called Double something. So Double Identity was because she got 2 identities. Double Pursuit, whoops, The Next Adventure, and Double Stakes. And I also sorry, this is one with Amazon on it, but we will ignore that bit because my proper ones are upstairs. Inceptio starts my Romanova thrillers. Okay, So, I mean, I've got an Amazon page, I'm on Apple, I'm on Kobo. I have a website which is alison-morton.com. See, I keep it simple, I can't be doing anything else, but then you do need the hyphen. And all my books are on there, lots of explanation, lots of articles on Mel, her background, the French army, lots of articles about Rome, lots of stuff on there. So, and of course, I have a newsletter. So, but it's all on there. And please ask me any questions, email me or contact me on social media. And I'll be very pleased to answer, to talk. I'm very sociable.
I think you and Leslie would be good friends because her MA was about the home front in the UK and Germany.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Well, I love Germany. I find it intriguing country. I find it baffling. I find some I understand it. I can speak the language, which helps. And it puzzled and bewildered the Romans as well. It's a fascinating country, and I think we do well to keep our eye on it.
And then all that's left for me to say thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you. I've loved having good old chat. We haven't talked for a while.
We haven't,
So,
no.
you know, and I hope anybody watching has not been too bored. Thank you very much indeed, Caroline.
You're very welcome.